Okay, good afternoon. We want to talk today about some important things regarding international students and applying for schools in America. Now, in previous videos, I did mention about the structure of American universities and colleges and what's needed to get in, and you can go back and check some of the other videos for that. And I'm also a big proponent of choosing to study in a place where you want to be at, making sure the weather's good for you, if it's conducive for your family, and things like that. And why do I say these things? Because America is a very big country, and there are thousands of cities, thousands of different towns, and weather from one city to another is different. So these are things that you definitely want to look at when you're looking to study. Now, one thing that a lot of people tend to overlook is making sure that when you go there and you have pretty much a good mental state, making sure that you are adequately, exercising your brain and dealing with any issues of trauma and things like that before you go over there. So let's say, for example, if you have an anxiety of traveling or an anxiety of being around a lot of people, these are things you want to put into perspective before you leave, because oftentimes what happens is that people go to a place and they think it sounds good, and then when they go there they realize they can't take it and they're back home. This isn't just true of international students. I've seen this happen with even students in America, where somebody may go to the next state to go to school, they miss home and they're running back home. So definitely to make sure that have you have good mental health and to make sure that you're stable, you definitely want to make sure that you're tackling any issues that you may have a problem with now before you leave. Now, as an international student, there are definitely going to be more obstacles and hurdles for you. One of the things is, like you said, there's always a language barrier. Even if you do understand English fairly well, depending on what city you're in, you may hear different accents and different words that you might not hear from the next city. Or you may have a good command of textbook English when you're just talking about maybe like street language or street lang. You're not really understanding what's going on. Second thing is making sure that you know what areas in the place that you're going are safe and which are not. Contrary to popular belief, America has many, many dangerous cities, and most likely more dangerous than some of the places that you're from. And this is just honest. I've lived all over the Middle East, and I can honestly say that I've never been threatened living in the Middle East. In Africa, never felt threatened. In Europe, didn't really feel threatened. There's some cities in America that, to be honest, it feels like it's a war zone. So you do have to understand that this is not TV, and there are dangerous people in there. There's some places in America where the crime rate is high, where the murder rate may be high. And this is just, I just want to be, totally transparent with you. There are places that aren't the safest place to study. And sometimes you'll see some of the best universities are in some of the roughest neighborhoods. So for example, Temple University in Philadelphia, very good university, not in the greatest neighborhoods. Ohio State University, not necessarily in the greatest neighborhood. Plenty of other schools like that, they're just not in the greatest neighborhoods. So you have to take extra caution, especially when you go into some of these urban universities. Now, as somebody who is coming out, let's say in their senior year and they're looking at starting school, there are hopefully some things that they already have done. Number one, hopefully they have their standardized testing done if their school needs it. Remember before we talked about some schools don't necessarily need these tests. They call them test optional schools. Some schools don't necessarily need them. But I still do believe, as a recommendation, I still believe that as an international student, you should still take some of these tests just to test, just to see where you stand amongst other students around your age. We also talked about making sure that we are reading at the level of some of the other students. And I had this in my middle school session where I was telling the middle school kids, like, you want to make sure that you're keeping up to date with what kids in middle school in America are reading. This is very important because last thing you want to do is go to university and find out that maybe some of the books that they're referencing in class, they automatically assume that you read it. And this is very easy to find out. You just have to go to Google and find out what are the reading levels of, and what are the reading lists of kids per grade in America. You could even see the best school districts in America. You can see what books are these kids reading. And you can mimic those. And then you can go buy the books, and then your kids can read it, or you can read it either way. Definitely a stronger command in the English language is going to make you more successful. Some of the problems that I've seen with international students is that they become frustrated because their English levels are a little bit weak. Now, this is the area that I will touch on because I feel that's important. I've seen plenty of students go to some of the best schools in America from some of these countries, and they had no business going there. Maybe they had some connections, maybe, they had, the family had some money or whatever, so they were able to go to some of these schools. But they don't necessarily belong there. And then when they get there, they find out they're in trouble. Classic example, I knew a kid from Abu Dhabi who left Abu Dhabi to go to University of Penn. Now, if anybody knows about University of Pennsylvania is what they call the Ivy League schools, all right? Ivy League schools are University of Penn, Harvard, Yale, Dartmouth, Brown, Columbia, and Cornell. These are what we call the Ivy League schools. These are kind of like some of the top liberal arts schools in America. So when I saw that this kid was going to go to this school, and knowing him and knowing his English level, knowing his study habits, I'm wondering, first of all, how did he get in? And if he gets in, how long is this kid going to last? Because I'm going to tell you, he was not Ivy League level, as we call it. So I think he might have stayed there for a semester or two. We had some guys look out for him. And then he ended up transferring to Purdue, which is in Indiana, which is kind of like Midwest. And it was a little bit surprising because people usually don't get into like a school like Penn or Columbia or Harvard and then transfer to Purdue. So perhaps he didn't like it, the work balance, and it may have been just too hard for him. Because remember, these were some of the elite students of America and around the world go to. And I didn't see this kid as an elite student. But nevertheless, this is what happened. I sometimes think that these schools accept international students, and without giving them the proper training and the proper direction, they actually go there, waste their money, get frustrated, and drop out of school altogether. So this is something that we have to pay attention to as well. We want to make sure that as we're going to these schools, that they are a perfect match for us. Not perfect, or at least close to it. Because think about it, you're going to have to be there for 4 years. 4 years you're going to be there, at the very least 4 years. You're going to be in this city for about 4 years or so. So you want to make sure that it's right for you, and it's an environment which is conducive for you studying. So you're going to find a lot of international students that are there. They have no business being there. They weren't prepared. They didn't know what to expect. They just signed a paper, off to the foxes. But the problem is that they end up doing a disservice to themselves because they get frustrated, and sometimes they do have to go home. Sometimes the older students are a bit more prepared. So maybe I've seen sometimes students may come over there, their job may sponsor them to go over there, and maybe they're older and they have a family or things like that. And then they end up going over there and doing fairly well. Classic example, I knew some guys from the Kuwait military and the Oman military, and they had to go over there to take a couple of courses there, and actually ended up having to do a master's degree in like aeronautical engineering or something like that. But these guys were already in their career and already top of the line. So they were able to come there, and their family could come and everything. So generally the older students are a bit more focused because, you know, they have families and they have to take care of somebody. Whereas the younger students, they kind of go there and get lost in the sauce, as we say in America. You kind of get lost in the sauce. Now, there are very difficult places to be in America, like we mentioned, but I think that some of the hardships are going to be where you have a student who may be from a country which is maybe a bit more conservative to America, and then once they come to America, they start going crazy. They see things like parties, they see things like bars, they see things like a lot of activity going on in these neighborhoods where, for example, You may be from a country which is maybe a little bit more conservative, a bit more family friendly, and you're not used to having all this freedom. This can actually destroy you as well, because with you not knowing how to handle being in these situations, you could actually go there and it's too much on you and you end up burning yourself out. Let's say if you're in a country where there's not a whole lot of parties going on or a whole lot of things going on, you go to America, some of these campuses are like, are like nightclubs, and these are things you do have to understand. And you may be from a culture where certain things aren't acceptable or you feel uncomfortable with. So this is why it's very important to understand where this school is and what are some of the local customs, some of the people. Contrary to what most people think, America does vary from city to city. Culture is different. So I've noticed, me personally, this is my personal opinion, when I'm in the southern states in America, I feel that it's a bit more hospitable. The people are maybe a bit more friendly. They're a bit more opening. You start hitting like South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, it's a bit more slow, laid back, relaxed. When you start going upwards like New York, Boston, these areas here, it's a bit more fast, and it's a bit faster, and people might not be as friendly. And then I've also noticed in the West Coast that the people are kind of laid back. I mean, they have their own issues, but they're kind of laid back, and it's a good vibe. So it all depends, and so you start noticing the differences when you meet different people. You'll notice that the highest concentration of probably of the best universities in America are primarily on the East Coast. There are very good schools on the West Coast, don't get me wrong. But when you start talking about the big name schools, the majority of them are on the East Coast. All of the Ivy League schools are on the East Coast. And then even like some schools that are up there, with them, right behind them, even the baby Ivies, like the Haverford colleges, the Swarthmore colleges, all these schools are kind of like, they're on the East Coast. So you'll notice that as well, that these are where some of the strong universities are. Now, what that does though sometimes is that you'll notice that there are very reputable schools in the middle of America, middle states, that have great programs that you can benefit from. And it all depends on what you're going for. If you're just going there for prestige, well, I don't know how that works. I personally don't believe that you should just go to a school just for prestige. You do have some schools that have great programs, but I've seen schools that have pretty much been, ranked very high schools, and certain students didn't fit into it. So you have to figure out what fits in for you, what program is best for you, because at the end of the day, you're going to have to be the one there. Does your school have a lot of kids, or is it a small school? You'll find some schools that are maybe 2,500 students, or 2,500 students, 3,000 students. Then you might have some schools that are 25,000 students, 30,000 students. Now, if you come from a little village in India and you're not used to seeing a lot of people, this might be a bit of a culture shock for you, because you're literally seeing that many people. Second, remember, the bigger the schools they are, the less attention that you're going to get. So you're more like a number. Imagine being in a biology class with about 500 students, right? 500, 600 students in a class. You'll never be able to have a one-on-one with the professor. You get lost going to class. Your campus looks like a spaceship. So, this does play a factor in your learning process. So definitely is making sure that you're feeling comfortable in these situations. We also touched on before on the importance of consulting with family and consulting with friends. So let's say maybe you're from Belgium and you're very close with your family. Maybe you might have some family in maybe Chicago or these areas, or you just might want to look in America and figure out maybe like what cities have the most most residents from Belgium there. And this can make your life a bit more easy. Imagine you're going to a country, you're trying to find your favorite spices, but you're in a city where there's not one person from your country. That could be a little bit hard, although you do have Amazon, things like that. But people want to be around people that they know. They want to be around their culture. But also, that could work against you, because sometimes when you have a gathering of people all from the same location, it kind of hinders you learning, because instead of you getting out and meeting other people, you're busy hanging out with your buddies. You're speaking the same language you grew up in. You're talking about the same stuff. So you're not necessarily growing. And I believe that when you go to school in another country, the invaluable thing is to learn about a different culture and to grow as a person. All right. Instead of just going over there and setting up shop with a bunch of people that you knew from back home anyway. And all you're going to be doing is reminiscing about what goes on back home, doing the same things, not trying new food, not trying new methods. And you kind of sometimes get stuck. All right. So that's another thing. We have some students in countries that have already started their university studies in their country, have already started, and they want to transfer. We'll talk about that as well, but also understanding that your transcripts would have to definitely be reviewed over there, whatever school you go to see if they'll even accept those credits. And this is something that you might want to do before you even transfer. So let's say, for example, if you finish 2 years of school in Kuwait, for example, you just want to find out which of those classes would be accepted for a transfer. If you transfer to school, they may accept a couple of them, they might not. All right, so that's another thing you want to look at, transfer agreements. How many foreign students do you have from this country here, and what's been the relationship? Maybe check with the university. If you're in university in your country, maybe see what schools they have a relationship with in America, schools in America. So for example, Hightower University in Chicago might have an agreement with University of Jordan, for example. All right, maybe some students go there on exchange students back and forth. Either way, there's always an agreement. I've noticed this especially like when I was researching with Turkey. You know, there's some Turkish universities that actually have dual programs with schools in America. So you could do maybe 2 years there, 2 years in Turkey. And also there's some schools in America, some of the bigger name schools, where they actually have strong relationships with universities. Some of their students come over and study for some time. So they may go to, University of Jordan or University of Bahrain or something and go and study for a semester and then come back. And those credits are accepted. That's something you need to check with your counselor and whoever's on your team. So now that you kind of have all these things down, I guess the major thing is really just to get to work. And everybody has a different method the way they go about it. But I think in my method, the best thing to do is really kind of narrow down the schools you're interested in, see what the requirements are to get in, and then start doing research around it to figure, how's the neighborhood, how's the area, am I going to be able to get in? Is it realistic for me to get in? All right. We have what we call here I used to do it in America. I would tell students pick about 10 schools 10 to 15 schools that you think that you want to go to, and make sure some of them are called safety schools. Now, what is a safety school? A safety school is a school that you would know that you have a high probability of getting into. Maybe the admissions criteria isn't as strong as maybe the school you want to go to. So you want to make sure you have these safety schools. The last thing you want to do is apply to all heavy schools. Then you don't get into anything. All right. So you have your safety schools. I would say 10 to 15 schools. Fees can be a little bit pricey, but actually what they've been doing is they've been lowering the price of admissions applications. Some have actually been waiving them, which is a good thing. So we are noticing that. All right. Now, once you have these lists down and all these other research things, you're just pretty much just on your journey to go to figure out which school you're trying to get into. The next important thing after that is definitely talking about money. Who's going to finance this? Now, unless your daddy is the king of a small island in the Pacific, you're going to have to worry about how you're going to pay for it. Now, we do have a great number of students that are over there on a scholarship. Maybe the government's paying for it, or rich family members paying for it, whatever. So you have finances is something that some of the students might not have to worry about. I'm sure every country may send a delegation of students, of their top students from their country, to go over there to study. I've seen it with Moroccan students. I've seen it with Libyan students. I've seen it all over, where maybe they'll have 10, 15 students at one school. They'll pay for it and everything. Of course, probably with the contingency that they'll come back and serve their country. All right. So tuition is going to be an issue. If you're not in that category, how are you going to pay for this? And that's something that we definitely need to talk to some of the financial aid office in the school you're going to. Find out what scholarships they have for international students. Now, real quick, this is real funny. I was looking at some scholarships the other day, right? And they were talking about how they had a scholarship for maybe 10 to 15 kids from this one area. And they also had international scholarships. Now, I saw this like on a little Instagram page, and the deadline was like next week. But the question is, how many students you think really knew about that? And that's really what I'm concerned about, is that students coming in and not necessarily noticing that they've left a whole lot of money on the table. So I think that this is important to constantly look at some of these sites and figure out, like, who's offering money and what am I missing? Because I'm telling you, you can miss it just like this. I saw a scholarship that they talked about the other day, and it was for a full ride. And when we say full ride in America, that means it's a full scholarship. So full ride means full scholarship, tuition, board, room, board, everything, as opposed to a partial scholarship. A partial scholarship that might pay $5,000, $10,000, not the whole thing. But when we say full ride in America, that means it's covering everything. And my goal is to try to get all of you where you can get full rides, because that's what we want to do. We don't want to burden our parents with a bunch of bills. We want to make sure that we're getting a full ride. All right. And it's easier than you think, but you have to put the work in. So if you're coming to my office and you're saying, hey, Mr. Belgrade, I have a 1.8, what's the 1.8 out of 4.0? What's the probability of me getting into American University? I'm going to say 0 to none, because no one is going to want to invest in somebody. No one is going to want to invest in somebody who is going to go over there and mess up. So if you can't do good in your home country, what makes you think you're going to go overseas and do good in America? Doesn't work like that. So definitely I really say be realistic. And even with me, I'm going to be realistic with you as well. I'm going to say, okay, maybe this isn't right for you right now. Maybe you need to get strong in some of your skills, because you're just going to go there and waste money and waste time. But of course, some people don't want to listen. But even with me and my business, I hate taking people's money if I know it's not going to be a good result. And that's just, to me, that's just business ethics. I want to be honest with you. So somebody comes and says, I want to pay you $5,000 to do my paperwork to help you get into school, help you with studying, locate schools, basically education consultant. And if I see that you're not even making the minimum grades to even get into university, I'm simply not going to take your money, and I'm going to tell you, okay, here's what you might want to do remedial for you to get in. Then think about the competition. If you are a student who is weak, you have to compete with the people in your country.